Welcome to the Dash Mindset Podcast. I'm Sherry Zievenbergen. You were born, you're gonna die, and your adventure is your dash in between. So make the most of it. Unlock your potential in all aspects of your dash by embracing your uniqueness and living in a way that's authentic to you, not by doing more things, but by focusing on the right things. I'm a former corporate leader turned coach who's on my own journey, and I'm passionate about helping you on your journey too. So on the podcast, we'll explore how to live authentically by deciphering who you truly are and what you truly want. Are you ready to take a step toward designing your dash? Someday doesn't actually exist, so let's do it now. Hey there, welcome back to the Dash Mindset Podcast. In today's episode, I want to take you to Valencia, Spain, where I recently witnessed something that was incredible and also a bit unsettling and even a little heartbreaking. So here's the story. We went to Spain because my husband found $360 plane tickets, which is generally the impetus for us going anywhere, or at least deciding where we're going to go. And we happened to be there during the Fallas Festival. We had booked our flights because, we got tickets for $360. And my husband is looking online, finds out there's this Fallas Festival in Valencia. And we decided, okay, well, I guess we're going to go. So great timing. By the way, I know I'm not saying Fallas quite right. So if you're a Spanish speaker and I'm making your ears bleed, I'm sorry. But Fallas is spelled, in case you want to look it up, Fallas. So Fallas Festival, I strongly recommend you look it up because it's really just incredible. And my explanation is not going to do it justice. So it's an annual week-long celebration honoring St. Joseph. So keep in mind, this isn't a one-time thing. They do this every year, and it goes way back to the 15th century. I'm sure it's changed a ton since then because, there wasn't social media, internet connections were dial-up. I'm sure a lot has changed, but it's been going on for a long time. And it's just an incredible experience all around. Thousands of people wearing traditional Valencian attire, women wearing these gorgeous dresses, and they even had plastic coverings for them because the first night we were there, it was raining and they were prepared enough to have these plastic coverings for their dresses. It was unbelievable. And not just the women were dressed up, entire families were dressed up, men and kids all decked out in traditional clothes. The cutest thing to see these little Spanish kids in these little outfits, it was adorable. And then there were these nonstop firecrackers, just nonstop. There wasn't a special, now it's time for firecrackers time. It was the whole time we were there, all day, and until we left until about 3:00 in the morning. They probably went past 3 a.m. I don't know, because then we left for our hotel, which was on the outskirts of town. But there were kids setting them off, some of whom were seemingly unsupervised. I'm not sure. Adults were setting them off too. And everywhere. There wasn't a special firecracker time. There wasn't a special firecracker section. It was just happening all over the place. And there were these gigantic sculptures that were ultimately burned down the final night as the finale. Basically, a lot of stuff that would never happen in the States, at least without every single person signing a waiver. And these sculptures, which is what they refer to as fallas, are unbelievable. I can't even explain them, in a way that would do them any justice. They're gigantic. They're absolutely gorgeous. And local artists and craftspeople make these things. They spend months building these elaborate and massive things. And when I say massive, I mean some of them are up to 6 stories tall. And they're building these things out of wood, paper mache, and cardboard. And they're made really well because, like I said, it was raining the first night we were there and they stayed in great condition. It was just insane, which made it even more unbelievable. So there's about 800 of these things, not just a few, about 800, and they're everywhere. They're in streets and squares throughout the city, and they did a competition. So every year, as they do, each of the structures were judged in various categories. And then on the final night, around 8:00, they started setting them on fire. They started with the small ones. There were quite a few small ones, probably about half of them were small, but still about 800, right? So they started with the small ones. Then at about 10:00, they started setting the bigger ones on fire. And then the first prize winner, they don't keep that around. They burned it down as the big finale. All of them burned them down to the ground, each one set on fire. I should also add, they do one at a time. So it's not like the entire city is on fire. They do one at a time, and there are firefighters there for each one. But still, I'm not talking about a little fire. These things are in the middle of the city, right next to buildings, some of which people are living in. And they pour gasoline on them. Gasoline. And they have more firecrackers, more fireworks for each one as it's engulfed in flames. At first I thought, seriously? They're spending all that time, effort, talent, all the things on building these amazing structures, and then they set them on fire? But then, as I watched one of the groups dousing one of the sculptures with gasoline, posing for pictures, laughing, smiling the whole time, I realized it's not really about the structure itself at all. It's a lot bigger than that, and it applies to all of us, really. Every one of us who's trying to make something positive in this world, whether it's a gigantic 6-story structure or whatever it is that we're making, there's something we can all learn from this. So today I want to explore 3 lessons we can all learn from the Fallas Festival. So lesson 1, the process is the point. We are conditioned to focus on the end result in most cases, the title, the diploma or certification, the product, the final report, the launch. But in Valencia, they spend months collaborating, designing, building these towering structures, not for the permanence of it, but for the joy of it, for the joy of creating it, for the process and the community, the connection, the challenge, the growth, all the things. And we so often undervalue that part of it. We undervalue the doing and we overvalue the done. But what if we started seeing the process itself as the reward? What if we gave ourselves and our teams credit, not just for what we deliver, not just for the end result, but for what we become through the process? Whether you're building a team culture, you're designing a new strategy, or you're even just navigating a challenge, there's value in that. There's value in the process itself, even if the final product doesn't last forever. So that's lesson 1. The process is really the point. Lesson 2. We don't need to burn everything down. Not everything needs to be burned down. The structures at the Fallas Festival do, because where in the hell are they going to store 800 gigantic structures, some of which are 6 stories tall, right? Especially given they're going to have 800 more next year. They had 800 last year. So yes, in this case, they do burn these down, and that makes sense. But whether it's truly about the process or not everything in life needs to be burned down. But sometimes we fall into this all or nothing trap. If something's not perfect, we scrap it. If a system isn't working, we burn it down and start over. We start again from scratch all the time. If a conversation doesn't go well, we avoid it altogether next time. But not everything needs to be set on fire. Sometimes we just need a shift, a refresh. Sometimes we just need to adjust a bit without starting completely over. In Valencia, they burn the structures down. They burn the final product down. But the skills and the relationships they built are still there. They carry those forward. So keep in mind, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. You can make a change without starting over entirely. You still gain something from the process, and you can build on what's already there. So that's lesson 2. Not everything needs to be burned down. It doesn't have to be all or nothing, and you don't always have to start over. All right, lesson 3. What you learn is transferable. So this really struck me. The artists and everyone who builds these things aren't just building sculptures. They're learning along the way. They're learning the whole time about collaboration, leadership, creativity, and patience. I cannot imagine the amount of patience required for this. And they're building trust. They're building confidence. And those things don't go up in flames. Those things strengthen. Those things continue to improve, and the people continue to improve. They're carried into the next challenge, the next project. So often we think if a project ends or a role changes, everything we put into it was lost. But really, nothing is wasted if we take the learning with us. The impact may not always be visible, but it still exists. It's still there. It shapes who we are, and it shapes who we're becoming. I'll share an example of this that you might be able to relate to. Recently, a friend of mine interviewed for a position she was really, really hoping to get. And I was really, really hoping she was going to get it. It just seemed like the perfect position for her. And she didn't get it. And right now, it kind of sucks. She kind of feels like she was punched in the gut. And she feels like she has to start over again. But here's the thing. She's not really starting over. She updated her resume. She prepped for the interview. She shifted her mindset enough to actually take action. And that's the most challenging part. That alone was 10 steps forward. And sure, not getting the job might feel like it's 10 steps back. It might feel like she's back where she started, but it's really more like 3 steps back. The hardest part was getting started, and she did that. And that momentum, that progress, that growth, none of that is lost. It's still with her, and it will show up in her next opportunity and the next move she makes, whatever that is. So she's really more like 7 steps ahead of where she was before. Her experience, the momentum, what she learned, all of that stays. And it's all transferable to her next move. So what does that mean for you? Maybe you're in a place where something feels like it's ending, or maybe you're questioning whether the effort you're putting in is even worth it at all. Maybe you're wondering whether it's time to walk away, but you don't want everything you've done to be a total waste. So you're wondering if you should dig in even more or what you should do. Whatever you decide, remember nothing you've done is a waste. And there's no need to burn it all down. Celebrate the process. Celebrate what you've already built. Celebrate what you're building. And know that what you learn lasts. It's not the end product. It's not just about the structures we create or whatever it is that we make. It's about who we become while we're building them. So I hope that was helpful for you today. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, make your dash matter and help others make theirs matter too. Have a great week. Thanks so much for listening to the Dash Mindset Podcast. If you enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast player, tell your friends, and leave us a review. Follow me on my social media platforms highlighted in the show notes, and get in touch with me at thedashmindset.com. Share the topics you'd like me to explore in future episodes. Thanks again for listening to the Dash Mindset Podcast. We'll see you next time. Design and differentiate your dash your way and make today amazing.